One of the most important decisions in our lives is what we're going to do and where we're going to work. If you're like me, I like to do a lot of different things and can see myself in different roles. And if you're like me, we need to thrive in a dynamic environment. Having a lot of goals is motivating in themselves. Now, I realize that there's another group of people that are much more structured and methodological in their approach. They might have one big goal with razor-sharp focus that they're getting to, like becoming a doctor or getting a PhD, becoming a CEO or a film director. Now, having goals is motivating for all of us, and we have different ways of going about them. However, goals in of themselves are short-lived if we don't have other necessary elements. Case in point, obviously, if you're giving a lot of goals that you don't like or you're not good at, you're going to burnt out pretty easily, right? So the question is, how can we sustain engagement and motivation? If I asked you, what have you done recently that you really like and that you're good at? What gets you physically excited? Do you have that activity in mind? And if you don't, that's why it's so important to discover yourself, to try new things, meet new people, get new experiences, so you can find the thing and the place that clicks. So that you can be one of those people that wakes up in the morning with a smile on their face and is excited to go to work. Now, there are still 67% of people that are disengaged in their job. And according to the 2017 Gallup study, in the case of a country like the US, it costs a country $450 to $550 billion for those disengaged employees. And you might say, okay, well, why is that? Well, quite clearly, there's costs obviously for turnover, right? You get hired on, novelty in the job, everyone's excited, but then after 6 months, your motivation dies, right? You realize, okay, this is not what I wanted to do, or somehow there's some kind of misalignment between where you're working and what you want to do in life, okay? So once again, it's really important to figure out what are those necessary elements for motivation and engagement. Now, in one of the most ambitious research done at the University of Rochester by psychologists Edward Deci and Rick Ryan, they found out that humans have 3 fundamental human needs to be motivated. One is the desire to care and be cared for. 2 is the need to have a mastery of some kind of competence and the feeling that we can impact the world in some way. It's not just millennials, guys. Everyone has this. And 3, the fundamental need to have some kind of autonomy or self-direction. Now, considering most or a big chunk of our lives is at work, finding these 3 needs at the workplace is a good place to start, right? And the good news is that these needs can be translated in the workplace in the following way. The desire to be cared for can be translated at the workplace with something we call intrinsic equality, which means no matter my position in the company or my race, my gender, religion, orientation, I feel like my voice is being heard, and I also feel somehow recognized and appreciated as a human being. And competence is translated in the workplace as personal growth. So you want to find what it is you like, and you feel like you're growing and learning in that specific competence. And finally, in the workplace, you want to have some kind of self-direction. So none of us like to be micromanaged. We might have goals that are given to us, but at the end of the day, we want to have the decision of how we're going to go about doing them. So bringing these 3 elements together, you have what people call liberated companies. You get really engaged employees. And if you're interested in this topic, there's a great book called Freedom, Inc. by a Stanford professor and ECP Europe professor that has consolidated case studies and interviews from employees and companies all around the world that says, yes, you've got these 3 qualities, you've got a liberated company, so you might be a professional, but you might also be a manager one day. So no matter where you are, you want to make sure that these 3 elements are somehow fostered in your workplace, okay? Now, let me give you two cases from real life. My friend Justina, who is also, by the way, an SGH alum, was an art director at an ad agency at an early age, and she loved her job so much that she was okay working 10 plus hours a day. Okay? Flourished, amazed, super excited, coming every day, until one day the company moved her from being a creative art director to selling media. And within a month, Yusina lost all motivation. Why do you think that is? Well, the goals that were given to her weren't the goals that she set for herself. She couldn't see herself in that. And unfortunately, like many of you that are young and on the journey of their career, she didn't have the confidence to stand up for herself and say, you know what I did before, this is what I see myself in. I want to continue to grow in this domain. And so she got moved into something that she didn't like, she didn't see herself in, and unfortunately for the company, resigned. Luckily for Justina, she has found her place and is very much engaged and thriving in her current job. Now, let me give you an example from my experience. I work for one of the greatest multinational corporations in the world that has all the three elements of intrinsic equality and personal growth and self-autonomy. And for many, many years, I was engaged and happy in different roles, being transferred from one country to the other, traveling the world. I felt like I was on top of the world, okay? However, there came a point in time where I was definitely engaged with a lot of work, but not engaged and happy with how we've defined here. And I asked myself, okay, what's going on, right? Still the same place. And I realized that I changed. My values changed through different experiences, like becoming a mom of 2 children and working in the startup scene and meeting new people that opened my eyes to a different way of living and working. And so my personal values changed, and with that, my goals and my personal sense of vision also changed. Because your values and your personal vision define you. They define you, but also how engaged and motivated you are at your work. And you know what? Your work is also reflected in that. Our vision of ourselves gives us meaning, direction, and motivation. And so what I want to tell you guys is, look, no matter what you decide to do, be true to yourself. Be clear what it is, what you want in your life, and go for it. And one of the things that's helpful is, of course, knowing your values. You know, so many times I talk to students or young professionals applying for jobs and positions in companies, and they take the mission and the values of the company and they appropriate them as themselves. They're like, yep, this is it. Only to find out that once they start working there, it doesn't always jive, because they haven't independently of applying for that job gone through the exercise of finding out what it is their own values independently of that. And so, since we're all here and you're already listening to me, I want to ask you guys, what are the 5 values most important to you right now and where you are in life? Here are just some examples to get your mind going. Now, knowing your values will help you make more informed decisions. Make it a key part of your decision-making process. Because a lot of times, when we make decisions, our values kind of subconsciously act on us anyway. But when we are aware of them, we can make more informed decisions that will better our lives. And just on a little side note, because sometimes you might do the exercise and say, okay, these are the values, this is what I want. You apply for a company, you're a perfect fit, and you just don't get the job. And you're really upset, and you're like, how? I have people like, how is that possible? Values are there, this is what I want, but I didn't get it. Someone else did. How's that possible? And with it, let's face it, interviewers are also subjective, and they have their own lens of what is most valuable to them, and so they may place more weight on a certain value than you do. So don't take it personally. Keep trying. However, I can tell you that if your personal vision of what you want to do in life is aligned with that job, you are much more likely to get it. Your personal vision is how you envision your life at home, at your work, and in your community. Be true to yourself, make it known, think about it, and reflect upon it. Not right now, but take the time, go to your favorite park, cafe, do whatever you need to do to think about what are my biggest strengths and what defines me? What do I want in life? There's a really good exercise done by that I suggest by Dory Clark. She's a guru, an American. She's an American who's a guru in personal branding, and she has this exercise called building your narrative, which is about in the course of my life, either at studies or at my work, what's a recurring theme that I see myself in? During really hard times or new opportunities, where's my role in that? Find that theme and see if that's the theme that you want to see yourself in. Is that the domain you want to go in moving forward? And set yourself a timeline. Say, you know what? Next 3 to 5 years, this is what I want to see myself in. Write it down and do back steps of what it is, the things that I need to do to get there. How is this next step forward part of the journey for my personal ultimate vision? And you know what? At the end of the day, life is life, and you might have that, and it's good to have that plan, but things evolve, and we change as well, and realize that it's an active living process. And in fact, it's good to change and to adapt and to constantly try new things, to find the place and thing that clicks. And so I get a lot of people asking me, hey, Allie, how is it that you can combine all the things that you do? You have a corporate job, you have kids, but you also dabble in the startup scene. I have 2 of my own startups. And I tell them, well, you know what? Apart from not having a Netflix account and having the support of my incredible family, I am open to the fact that I combine my hobbies with potential networking and learning opportunities that could be career opportunities in the future. And you know what? Guess what? The fact that I do these things outside of my work, I feel like make me better in what I'm doing, because in the startup scene, for example, I see what are the new disruptive business models, what are the best practices, and I bring them into my current position. So I suggest get involved, do the things that you love to do outside, because you never know when that can start becoming your day job. And so, I'm gonna tell you something. It's almost like a coming out. I've been on the crossroads of 2 very important career decisions, and I had to make the decision quite literally a few days ago. Now, I got 2 job offers. One was a job offer at my current company to do a more commercial role, probably a better fit than what I'm doing right now, but still, I could stay in Warsaw, which I have all of the network and the family support. Remember, I have 2 kids, right? So having that nanny and the 2 parents down the road is definitely really, really useful. And the other job was a big move abroad to Switzerland, but with a medical startup. And I was trying to think, wow, that's incredible. First of all, I feel extremely humbled and honored to have these 2 positions, but how do I decide? You know, and initially I went through, let's say, the pros and cons. We all do that, right? We write on a piece of paper. And I made the analysis of, okay, both of the positions have these 3 elements that I talked about, right? So I'm in my current company now that I talked about, and this new company have these elements of intrinsic equality and definitely personal growth and also autonomy. I can do the job the way I want to do it in both ways. And I even share the values in both of these companies, because I also somehow know the company where I got the job offer from indirectly, and I know the CEO. And I got, okay, so how do I make this decision? And you know what? That's what it boiled down to. My personal vision of myself. And I stopped taking I stopped doing things in here, and I stepped back and I said, okay, I have to think with my heart and think, where do I see myself in more? What is truly that which I want for myself, my personal vision? But when I mean personal vision, I don't just mean egotistically. I mean also what I want for my family. And so I thought, is this what I want? The promotion of my current company? Or is this new position? Where do I want to be? Knowing that it's going to be really tough at the beginning, obviously, right? And you know what I decided? that this place here is where I see my personal vision for myself and for my family. And so, like I mentioned, all of the elements of finding that work environment are really important for sustained engagement and happiness, but it's our personal responsibility to know your values and to know your personal vision and to make sure that there's that alignment between the two. And so, what I'd like to leave with you guys is be aware and think of your personal values and what it is that defines you. What is your personal vision? Because only when you know them will you know you.